Hello, everyone. My name is Yongkang. I'm proud of being a Alibaba Cloud MVP. Today, I'm going to show you how to create an ACK cluster from a web browser. Basically, just one OpenAPI call. We will create an ACK cluster. Let me immediately jump to the web console. I log into the web console. And let me start from the beginning. I'm going to open a new tab. Just copy and paste the long URL. Let me close my first tab. I click enter. You will be taken to this web page. It's called OpenAPI. Right now, for the international market, it's still in beta version. But all I need to do is I just click initiate call. So which essentially we're going to create an ACK cluster from Alibaba Cloud. So let me open another tab. I'm going to log into Alibaba Cloud console. So from here, you can see I just initializing a new cluster and the ACK for Yongkang. That's the cluster name. And right now it's creating the cluster. If you want to monitor, you can click view logs. So basically from here, you can see the creation process progress. And if I click at logs, you can see all the details, what we are going to create. So right now it's 3:05, that's a Singapore time. And here are the objects or resources we're going to create. So as you can see from the screen, creating a cluster, it does take around 10 minutes, sometimes around 13 minutes or 14 minutes. So I don't really want to wait while we are creating the cluster. Let me come back to the slide. I will show you some of the details of how to create the ACK cluster from the web browser with just one URL. Okay, come back to the slide deck and let me move on. So just to highlight, there are so many ways to create an ACK cluster. So in my previous recording, I did a session to talk about how to create an Alibaba Cloud ACK cluster from the console. So if you want to see how it works, you can visit the link. So create ack.yongkang.cloud. I also had a separate recording talking about how to back up an ACK cluster. So basically back up the workload, the containers running inside the ACK cluster. So the second link talk about how to protect the containerized application. The third link is talk about how to migrate the workloads. Could be running from other cloud, could be from your on-premise Kubernetes cluster, migrate to ACK cluster. Okay, and today's topic is about how to create an ACK cluster from the web browser via the OpenAPI calls. And there are two additional ways you can create an ACK cluster. So number one, in the old way, there is a tool, a command line tool. It's called Aliyun space CS. CS stands for Container Services. I say it's old. If you're trying to use the command line to create an ACK cluster, I actually spent quite a little bit of time trying to figure out how to create the cluster using the Aliyun CS command. I just can't get the parameters to create the cluster. But luckily, there is a brand new command line tool. It's called ACK-CS or ACK space CS. So the ACK is based on is a resource-based command line tool. So ACK stands for Alibaba Cloud Resourcify Command Line Tool, CLI. And in the next session, I will talk about how to create the ACK cluster via the command line tool using ACK-CS or ACK-CS. So for today's session, I just started creating the cluster from a web browser. So how to do, I will walk you through some of the details. So first of all, you can run the API calls via the web browser. So that's what I just did a few minutes ago. Alternatively, you can use the SDK, software development kits. If you're developers, you probably most likely you are familiar to any one of the languages. Could be Java, could be Node.js, could be Go, could be PHP, Python, C#, Ruby, or C++. So any one of the languages supported. I will show you shortly. If you're a developer, you pretty much you are familiar to these tools. You can download the whole source code and run from your terminal. So let me show you how it works from the web browser. So basically, this is a very long URL. You go to the endpoint. It talk about the endpoint is next.api.alibabacloud.com and followed by CS and the API version 2015. And the command we are using is to create a cluster and followed by the long parameters in JSON format. So as you can see from the screen, so first of all, you can customize your cluster name. In this case, I was using ACK for Yongkang. And my region ID, I was using AP Southeast 1. Basically, that's the closest region here. So right now, I'm based in Singapore. So I was using AP Southeast 1. And then choose the cluster type. Most likely, the prefer managed Kubernetes. That's the hosted managed Kubernetes cluster. And you will be asked to put in the VPC ID. Basically the virtual private cloud ID, and your master switch IDs. I will show you shortly from the console where to get these details. And you will be asked your login password. It's very important. Your password must be very complex. You need to have the capital case, you need to have the lower case, you need to have the special characters. Otherwise, your command will fail. And then you will be asked to provide the service side range and followed by your container side range and then your master system disk category. So there are multiple system categories. You have the cloud ESSD, which is a high performance enhanced SSD. And you also have the cloud _SSD, which is not enhanced. So I was using the high performance ESSD here. And you will be asked your master system disk size. I use the minimum required 40 GB. And number of work nodes for the testing purpose, I only use one node. And for the number of node, we also need to put including the vSwitch ID. And followed by work node, the vSwitch ID. I was using the same one basically. And the work node, the system disk size uses 40 GB as well. And the disk category. So in this case, I was using the cloud ESSD categories, the same disk type basically. And my instance type. So for the work node, I was using ECS .G5 .X-large. I remember that's 2 CPU and 16 GB memory. So if I remember correctly, but I can verify. And you will be asked your key pairs for the SSH access to the nodes. You need the key pair. And your master instance type, the master node instance type, I was using the same node type, ECS.G5.X-large. And you might optionally to include the tags. So I was using tags owner equal yom. And a cluster space. So are you using the standard cluster or the professional cluster? So most likely you will use the professional cluster. You've got more advanced features. And last but not least, do you want to give the public access for the testing purposes? I just give the public access. And also, do you want to create the SNAT? So basically, that's a source NAT. I created the source, net as well, and followed by add-on. So if you want to leverage the container storage interface to do the snapshot, you will need to add the CSI dash plugin and also CSI dash provision. Yeah, that's about the command or the URL, which I just launched from a web browser. As I say, it takes like 14 or 13 minutes to complete. So let me come back to verify. Yeah, before I come back to verify, I just walk you through how to delete the cluster, also via the OpenAPI calls. So again, you got two different ways. One is just running from the web browser, and secondly, you can run from the SDK. Again, all of the different languages will support it here. Let me come back to the web console to see how it goes. And if I click back, you can see right now it's still building the cluster. So I will walk you through details from the OpenAPI console. So I go back to this tab. So as you can see, you got a cluster name, you got a region ID, you got a cluster type, you got your cluster specifications, you got your VPC ID, you got your container side range, you got your service side range, and do you want to enable SNAT? Do you want to enable public access? And some of these are optional. You don't have to put something into anything. Plus, I want to highlight the add-on. As I say, the add-on CSI plugin and plus CSI provision. It's very important. If you are going to leverage the snapshot technologies, the volume snapshot technologies, you need to add these two add-ons. And moving down to the screen, you can see what else here. Yeah, I'm here. I got a key pairs. I got my login password. That's my email address, by the way. And I got the master vSwitch ID. And I got my master instance type and the system disk type and disk size. And also how many nodes. So for testing purposes, I just use one single work node. And my vSwitch ID, my work vSwitch ID, and my work node instance type, disk type, ESSD, and the disk size of 4 GB. Yeah, that's about it. So if you want to create your own cluster just for the testing purposes, or you just want to quickly to create the cluster without multiple clicks from the normal Alibaba Cloud Console, you just copy the whole URL, you customize all these settings based on your requirements. And then you click initiate the call. And after you initiate the call, immediately you get a response code 202. That means it was accepted by the API back endpoint. And you also got the cluster ID here. So when we are going to delete the cluster, once we create it successfully, I will show you shortly. Actually, let me show you now. I will duplicate the current tab. And from the left side, you can see right now I was selecting create the cluster. And there is another option, it's called delete cluster. Yeah, delete cluster. I'm not a describer. Delete cluster. Actually, it's here, just next to create a cluster. So all you need to put here is paste your, I did not make a copy of the cluster ID. So once you make your API call to create the cluster, you can see your cluster ID here. You right click, you make a copy of the cluster ID, and then you paste to the cluster ID field. And if I want to destroy or delete the cluster, you just click initiate the API call. We will destroy or delete the cluster. So by now, the cluster should be ready. Let me come back. Yes, yeah, it is ready. If you want to verify how long it takes, you click view logs again. You can see I started the job at 15:05 and finished at 15:18. So exactly 13 minutes. So the cluster is up running now. So yeah, if you want to, download the cluster connection details, you just click the cluster name, and then you can see the second tab is your basic cluster information. The third tab is the cluster details. You can copy paste the cube configure file, copy it to your terminal, and then you can access via the command line kubectl to get all the details and to manage the Kubernetes cluster. I think that's pretty much all for now. If I go back to the cluster nodes here, you can see it is up running now. If I want to destroy or delete the cluster, so as I say, you paste your cluster ID here, you click initiate code. So now, if I go back to the cluster console, you can see, if I refresh the screen, you can see it is now deleting the cluster. Yeah, that's easy. So one API call to create the cluster. Once you've done your job, you can delete the cluster also via the API call. So it's basically one API call. So last, I want to show you how to create the cluster using the SDKs. So if I go back to the console, which I initiated creating the cluster, I go back to the SDK sample code. On the right, on the bottom of the screen, you can see. So you can choose either updated SDK or choose the original SDK. So I highly prefer to use the updated SDK. And you can choose any one of the familiar languages you are using. If I want to choose Python, you just click Python here, and then you can download the whole source code. And if I save somewhere, let me save it to my downloads. And the whole code is saved here. And if I double click, so basically it will create a folder. And from the folder, you can see there is a README file to walk you through how to deploy creating the cluster using the SDK via the Python language. So let me double click the README. So you can see, yeah, I'm sorry, it's still in Chinese, but you get the idea how it works. So here is how it works. So you need to run the Maven clean package. You need to run the npm install, and you need to set the group proxy. You need to run the composer install on the PHP, and also finally you need to run the how to create the cluster using the command line by the Python. So Python 3 setup.py install, and also Python running the sample code. We will create the cluster from your basically using the Python code. So I'm not going to walk you through any the rest of the options. So basically, the other option is come back to the screen. If you are familiar to Go or maybe PHP, you select the tab and then you download the project. And we will basically Alibaba Cloud allows you to download the whole package and also comes with the README document to walk you through how to deploy, how to run the code by the languages. I think that's pretty much all I want to cover for today. Let me come back to the slide deck. So coming next, yeah, I really want to show you how to create an ACK cluster from a command line. With that, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy. And if you want to connect me, feel free to connect me by LinkedIn, Twitter. Yeah, I got my email address as well. And also I got my YouTube channel. Feel free to watch anything you're interested. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye.